Well, hello, everybody. How is everybody doing today? Welcome to Simplifying Your Disclosures Using Glide. Um, we'll just wait here another minute, see if anybody else clocks in. Just a couple of quick things real quickly. We are recording today's webinar, so everybody attending will get a copy of today's webinar. So if you miss out on asking a question or, oh, geez, I wonder what Tony was talking about, beautiful thing about a recorded webinar, you can watch it a million times, you can fast forward it, you can rewind it, you can do all that fun stuff, or even pause it so you can play with some of the tools. Okay. All right. So let's see here. It's nice to see a lot of familiar faces back. Welcome. You were probably just in the last webinar going over REALA. So welcome back for those of you who've been with me today. So thank you. Okay. So real quickly, let me introduce myself. My name is Anthony. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm excuse me, my brain just shut off there. I've been an employee of Orange County Realtors now since 2002, so coming up on 18 years. Started off in the MLS department, so no guaranteed I'll speak to everybody regarding rules, regulations, violations, all that fun stuff. What I'm also involved with is our outreach program. Our outreach program is designed to give you training on all your tools and products offered to you by CRMLS and the board and the state, as well as the nation. So not only do I give training classes on MLS, how to run searches, how to modify listings, creating CMAs, all that fun stuff, but I also train on zip forms, so how to put together your transactions electronically, how to digitally sign them, so on and so forth. But I also train on technology. I love training on technology. I love showing agents how they can utilize their tablets and mobile devices for their real estate business to become virtual agents or paperless agents specifically. So what we're going to go over today is a free member benefit called Glide. Okay, whoops. Now Glide is a third-party member benefit tool that allows you to send out a request to, say, a seller or sellers to help them fill out disclosures. Okay. Now there are certain disclosures, as we all probably are aware of, or most of us should be aware of, that we as agents are not able to fill in, right? Specifically, the TDS and the SPQ. Okay. And just to show you what I mean, we're going to log into my Zip Forms account. And we're going to pull up a transaction. Now, when we pull up a transaction, for the seller, and eventually this will all come up. See, you guys aren't the only ones that have delays. I'm going to go into my listing transaction for my seller. And after I get a signed listing agreement, so on and so forth, we've opened or put our listing on the MLS. There are other documentations that they need to fill in about the property, right? Specifically the TDS and the SPQ. Now, if you don't know what the TDS stands for, it stands for the Transfer Disclosure Statement, and the SPQ stands for Seller Property Questionnaire. Now, these forms, if you'll notice here, if you've ever used them, have areas that are totally grayed out, meaning that I, as an agent, cannot fill in this form for a client. This requires the client to fill in. Now, we have several ways of doing this. Number one, we could go the traditional route by emailing this document as a PDF to the client for them to print out, fill out, rescan, and send back to us. Now, usually after a process like that, we have to spend time trying to decipher chicken scratch, right? You'll notice that some of these lines are really small and tiny, and some people's writing, or most people's writing, is not the most legible, right? And heaven forbid, maybe you saw that somebody had marked something, the seller marked something, then scratched through it, then marked it again, then scratched through it again, and then only to remark it with their initials. Can be a bit of a pain, right? Then we have another way of sending this out. We can send it out through e-sign. So DocuSign Digital Link does allow the seller, specifically seller 1, to not only sign and initial this document, just like seller 2, but seller 1 does have the capability of filling in the form. But here's one of the many problems that I have discovered. The seller misses things. Like they mark gas under the water heater, but forgets to mark the water heater. Or they don't fill it in at all. So now all of a sudden I've got a signed form that's not filled in correctly. Now what do I have to do? I have to now resend the form again for them to sign, initial, as well as refill out all over again. This time, when they fill out and miss other things. So this can be a bit of a hassle, right? Not only for you, but for the client. The client is probably going to be mad. Hey, I've signed this form 4 or 5 times, and you tell them, well, that's because you keep missing things or you keep changing your answers, right? This is where Glide's going to help, because here's the other common complaint. When I email this to a client or I send it out for e-signatures, the very first words out of the client's mouth is they feel overwhelmed. All they see is a bunch of boxes and lines and all this stuff, and they feel immediately overwhelmed in filling out this form. This is where Glide's going to help. What Glide will do is that I can send out a request through Glide to have a seller or sellers fill out this type of form. And what this does, what the system does, is it now takes this form and puts it into an easy, digestible style format so that a person does not feel overwhelmed when filling out this document. Okay? As a matter of fact, doesn't matter if you're young or old, if you're, comfortable with technology, Glide is going to be such a great and easy tool to get the clients to fill out the TDS and the SPQ very quickly and easily. And this system will allow you to review the document before sending it out for signatures. So you can review their answers to make sure that things are filled in properly. And if something's not, you can call them and say, okay, you need to fix something because this doesn't make sense, right? Like you might have skipped over a couple of answers, or you wrote in something here that I'm not sure that what you mean. Can you clarify before you send it out for signatures? Okay. So this is a great way of being able to review these types of documents before signing. Okay. Now, to take advantage of Glide or to activate your free member benefit, what you're going to do is you're going to go to the web and you're going to go to a website called Glide, G-L-I-D as in dog, E as in elephant.com. Now from here on glide.com, you're going to go to where it says pricing. Now, because everybody's a Realtor member, this is a free Realtor member benefit offered to you by CAR. From here, you're going to click on Get Started. When you click on Get Started, you're going to now input your first name, your last name, your email address, and create a password. Okay. Now, once you do that, and because I already have an account created, I'm going to log into my account. Once you do that, then you're going to need to do a couple of things. Okay. Once you log into your account, you're going to immediately come over to the upper right-hand side and click on your initials. Okay. When you click on your initials, you're going to go to where it says account settings. Okay. There's some settings you need to set up to get this started. Number one, you're going to fill in some of your profile information. So upload a photo of yourself. Okay. Now, why do you need to upload a photo of yourself? Well, when you send out a request to a client, you want to remind them that this is actually coming from you. right? You don't want to surprise a client with something that they're not familiar with seeing without recognizing who you are. So upload your profile picture. Okay. Make sure that your first name, your last name is spelled correctly. Input your phone number. Make sure your DRE license number is filled in. Down below under the brokerage firm, upload your company logo, the brokerage name. If you happen to have the broker's license number, put that in along with the address and phone numbers, even your broker's website. Save it. Next, more importantly, down below, under Zip Form Plus integration, you want to link your Zip Forms account. Okay? Click on where it says link, put in your user ID, your password, and the email address associated with your Zip Forms CAR account. Okay? So what we're going to do here is we're going to tie Glide and Zip Forms together. That way, any listing transactions you make, you can send out the request automatically through Glide for that information to be automatically populated and placed on the documents, okay, in that transaction. All right. Now, I will tell you that in certain circumstances, I want to say about maybe 75% of the time, when I go to link my Zip Forms account through Glide, this may not work. Okay. That's not a problem. If it doesn't work this way, where it refuses to recognize your account through Glide, then not a problem. You've already created the account in Glide. So then what we could do instead is that we can go back into Zip Forms. Okay. When we go into Zip Forms, what we're going to now do is we're going to link the Glide account through Zip Forms or from Zip Forms. How we do that? On the dark blue bar here, next to where it says transactions, there's a choice that says partners. When we click on partners, we're going to come over here to the left-hand side and we're going to choose other. This will give you access to all your third-party benefits offered to you by CAR. Okay. Now, once we scroll down on these benefits, we're going to see a choice here that says Glide. From here, we're now going to click on Link Account. When we click on Link Account, this will now ask us for our Glide account information that we just created. I will tell you that this method works about 9 times out of 10 versus the other way, which works maybe 50 to 60% of the time. Okay. So if you have problems doing it through Glide, come into Zip Forms and do it through Zip Forms. Okay. Now, once you're done doing that, now you're ready to create sessions through your Glide account. Okay. Or request from Glide to your clients to fill out disclosures. Okay. Now, how we do that, very simple. Back in Glide, I've got the listing created. I got the client to sign their listing agreement, got the property listed in the MLS. Now I need them to fill out the SPQ or the TDS or both. Okay. This is how we do it. So from within Glide, I log into my Glide account. I'm now going to come over where it says to transactions and create a new transaction, or in this case, a new session. Now, when I click on new transactions, you'll notice here that it says link Zip Forms Plus account. It's already referencing my Zip Forms Plus account email address. And then down below will give me a list of all my listing transactions in Zip Forms. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the transaction itself. It's now going to ask me a couple of things. Is this the correct transaction? Yes. From here, what is your transaction status? Well, it's currently active. Am I the listing agent? Yes, I am. There's no other agent that needs to be involved in this other than me, the main listing agent. Now, what type of disclosure package am I going to send out? In this case, I'm going to send out the request seller's disclosure package. Okay. When I hit start, here are the two forms. So it automatically uploads the TDS and the SVQ. Now I do have a choice to add in some other documents. If I click on the down arrow, here are the other documents that I can add in for the seller to fill in. Now these documents are the only forms that a seller is required or needs to fill in if necessary, like the ESD, the exempt seller disclosure. So if the TDS wasn't required, I could delete that one and add in instead the ESD. But we also have the coronavirus addendum, the flood, lead-based paint, and hazards, the parking and storage disclosure, the seller common interest and HOA disclosures, the vacant land questionnaire, the property document collection, and of course the residential earthquake statement, and the mobile home community disclosure. Okay. If you need one of those, great. Now you'll notice here the other disclosures aren't involved in this only because those other disclosures are forms that I, as their listing agent, would fill in for them. Okay. These are documents only fillable by the seller. Now, for simplistic sakes, we're just going to fill in one of these two forms. In this case, I'm just going to choose the TDS. Okay. But know that I could have both of them here. Now I'm going to hit continue. Right away, do I have any other documents that I need to add to this transaction? Do I need to attach my own AVID? Or do I have any other disclosures to note? Nope, no items for disclosure at this time. Okay. Am I aware of any, if the property is in an HOA? Yes, no, or I don't know. Answer it. What type of property is this? You'll notice that it's automatically set to condominium based on the information already on my forms. It's already pulled that for us. We hit continue. Now, I've got myself as the packet admin, being the listing agent. I've got seller 1 and seller 2. Now, you'll notice here that the big difference between seller 1 and seller 2 in Glide versus, say, e-signing only allows seller 1 to fill in the document. Here in Glide, seller 1 and seller 2 can both fill in the documents. They can both edit the forms. Now here's the catch. In this case, Max fills in the form, and then his wife Tiffany goes in and she changes his answers. Okay? Now, both of them can't go into the forms at the same time. Only one person can go in at a time. But one person can overwrite the other, depending on whoever logs in first versus second. Now, that may cause some confusion. Okay? So I would definitely designate or ask them who would like to fill in the forms. Doesn't matter if it's seller 1 or seller 2. Both of them could. Now, in this case, maybe Tiffany tells me, and Max can fill in the form. That's not a problem, but I do want to review what Max fills in. So what I could do is change her from filling out the form to she won't fill out the form, but she's only to review it. Or I can delete her altogether out of this entire process. Now, in certain cases, and I was at an office about 6 months ago when we were still allowed to visit offices, I did have one agent say that there was 5 different sellers on this investment property because it wasn't invested in a trust or an LLC, and all 5 of them wanted to fill in the disclosures. Well, guess what? You can add in additional parties to fill in the documents. So I can add in a seller 3, a seller 4, and a seller 5 if necessary. But I would say make sure that, talk to somebody or talk to that group if that's the case, and make one person responsible. The last thing you want is seller 3 rewriting over or changing answers number 1 and number 2 have done. Last thing you want is number 5 fully changing everything else. Okay. Now, if they want to all review it, sure. put all 5 of them in, and make at least 2, 3, 4, and 5 review, so they won't fill it in. Okay. Now, for demo purposes, I'm going to take out his wife, Tiffany, but know that we could have both parties here. Okay. Are there any questions so far, by the way? Looks pretty simple. And by the way, we haven't sent anything out yet. We're just preparing to send out the document or documents. All right, so no questions. All right, so now we're going to hit continue. So we've selected the parties. Seller email is not specified. Okay, so let's modify the seller. Don't know why his email's not in here, but it should be. Okay. And that should have been pulled from the form, so I apologize. We're going to hit continue. Now, this does ask me, would I like to add in disclosure protection, basically security, cybersecurity. You can say yes, no, or decline. And now we're going to send out the request. So literally, if you went through this normally, this should take you less than 2 minutes to do. Okay, so the form has been sent. Okay, so now the disclosures have been sent as a request to the client. So now, what does the client experience? So let's go into the email. So now I'm Max. I call up Max. I say, Max, I just sent you the disclosures for you to fill in. If you want, I could be on the phone while you fill them in in case you have any questions. So Max goes, okay, not a problem. Max goes into his email. You tell Max, all right, Max, you're going to look for an email from me sent from Bried. So he opens up his email, and we see here right away, Anthony Bried via Bried is asking you to fill out the seller disclosures. So Max goes, okay, not a problem. Let's click on that email. Right away, it says complete your seller's disclosures. Hi, Maximilian. As for the California homeowners, your agent, he's now going to begin the disclosure process. So he clicks. Now, if this is Max's first time doing this, Max is going to need to create a username and password. This is at no charge to Max. Okay. Now, what's nice about this is that Max can go into any future documents or future edits to modify the forms, okay, that I've sent him. Okay. So Max signs in. Now, because I'm using this as a demo account, it's probably going to come up with some information here from past transactions. So you won't see this regularly. But right away, before we begin, this is serious business. We've got information that we need to fill in. So Max is going to hit continue. Here's the disclosure advisory. What Max is prepared to do, what he's going to do. He's going to hopefully agree to the terms. Now from here, hello Maximilian, you are ready to begin completing your forms. So we're going to begin the packet. Right away, it tells us here the real estate transfer disclosure statement has 47 questions that need to be answered. Now, a lot of us probably didn't even know that there were 47 questions within that disclosure, right? You just look at the form and you're just like, wow, there's a lot of boxes that I need to check mark and a lot of lines I need to fill in. Well, here we're going to have an end goal, okay? So Max goes, all right, let's get started with our 47 questions. Agree to the terms of about filling out the transfer disclosure statement. Number one, would you like to list any inspections or reports where the provider has agreed that the contents may substitute for your obligation to answer, yes or no, right? Do I have any just inspections or disclosures that I have? Yes or no? In this case, maybe I don't. Now we're going to talk about the property items, section A. Am I still occupying the property? Now I know that this is one common question that everybody seems to miss, right? When they're filling out that form, this is that very small question right underneath that very first paragraph that everybody seems to forget to check mark. So here, do I occupy it? Yes, I do. Which of the following items are in the property? So now what the client can do is go through this entire list, marking what needs to be marked. Now, one thing that I really like about Glide is that the client cannot skip a question. They can't just arbitrarily not answer it. They have to answer something in that. Even if it's none of these things in the house, they have to still mark that there's nothing there. Now, if they have a question about a particular question, they can flag it. Now, what happens here if they flag this question? Glide automatically sends me a push notification email to my phone and to my email address that says, Maximilian has a question in his disclosures. I can now log into my Glide and see what questions are being flagged by Max, or I'll simply give Max a call. Hey, Max, I noticed that you flagged some questions. What's your questions about those questions? Let me help you as best I can. Okay. So real quickly here, Max can put in what items are in the house, right? Central heating, central air, public sewer, city water, gas supply is utility, water heater is gas, are there safety, carbon monoxide detectors, fire alarm, and I don't know, burglar alarm. Exterior, there's a garage, rain gutters. What else? I've got a hot tub and a pool. And then any other items I need to list, right? Wine cellar. I'm going to hit continue. Now, by the way, when we get down below, you notice that it tells you how much we've completed this form so far, or this section. So is the garage attached? Yes or no? Yes. Do I have an automatic garage door? Yes. How many remotes do I have? You know what? I happen to have 3. Is there a locking safety cover on the hot tub? No, there's not. Do I have a pool and pool spa heater? It's gas. Where's the 220 volt? It's in the baby's room. So what I'm doing is I'm answering all the necessary questions on my home. I don't know what type of roof my home has. I might know the approximate age because I've owned the home for about 20 years. Right? Now, to the best of my knowledge, is everything listed below, or is there anything listed below in not working? No, I think everything does work. Or yes, everything does work. Or I'm sorry. No, nothing is not broken as far as I know. But it still asks me to go through the section B, the defects and malfunctions. So here I can list or indicate what's not working. In this case, none of these are in non-working condition. Now we're in section C, the property issues. And now we're just going through each and every individual question on page 2. By the way, as I'm filling this out, does anybody have any questions so far? Looks pretty simple, right? So far, so good. Awesome, Sam. Let's see. I'm not aware of rooms additions. Yes. Installed 220 volt in the baby's room for heater. Right? Whatever we're just writing down and disclosing. Right? Or needing to disclose. Nope. No flooding in my house. We're on top of a hill. So here, by the way, we're 52% done with all of our questions here on section C. Am I aware of neighborhood noise problems? Nope. You're aware of CCNRs? Nope. I don't even live in an HOA. Nope. Right on through. Now, once we're done, with all this, it's going to now review all my answers. Okay. Now, as the client, I can preview what the PDF looks like. So here, if I hit preview PDF, this should open up and display what the PDF looks like. Now, if they don't want to look at the PDF because, geez, they need to sign this, and you'll notice here it says preview. So they technically can't even sign this until I've had a chance as their agent to review this document. Okay, so we see that this form is now filled in really nice and neat, right? Well, let's close this out and hit continue. Now, if there was anything missing at this point, it's going to flag it. Because there's nothing missing, Glide now all of a sudden is preparing this form to be submitted back to me, the listing agent. And it says, great, thank you very much. Everything's done. You can now exit out, Maximilian. So now he leaves this choice. So now what happens at this point? So at this point, I'm going to be sending an email notification that the Glide documents or the disclosures have been completed. Okay, not signed, but have been completed, being filled in. So now I have a choice. I can go into Glide as the agent, and we'll just go back to glide.com. And I can log into my Glide account as the agent. And from here, under my transactions, and I don't know why it keeps saying something went wrong. I'll have to talk to Glide about that. But we're going to see here that under the property address, 2 Lake Knoll was created. It should have completed under this. And I don't know why it's not there. Ah, there it goes. So under the forms section, we see that the request of the seller's disclosures has been completed. So now what I can do is come over here to open this file. And I can resend out the disclosures, or coming back into this instead, I'm going to click on the 3 dots. Now what I can now do is view the PDF document itself. I can add in other documents, or even better yet, agents, because I have merged my zip forms with Glide, I could, from within Glide, send out e-signing requests either through Digital Ink or DocuSign. Okay. Now, do I see you guys coming back into Glide to double check on the form? No. However, the one major place that I will see you come to is in zip forms. So within about 30 seconds to a minute after the person has filled out the forms and completed this, in your zip forms, within the first 30 seconds, you'll notice that the transfer disclosure statement has been filled in. So it's not a PDF at this point. As a matter of fact, this live form that I can edit part of has now been automatically filled in from Glide and uploaded for me. So we see here are all their answers that they just answered. Where the 220 volt was in the baby's room. Don't know the roof type. It's about 20 years old. Here we've got some other information, and that in section C-5, where I indicated about the room modifications, I installed the 220 volt in the baby's room for a heater. Okay. So now we see all this form, and now this form is ready to be signed by the client. So now all I need to do as an agent is come over here to e-sign and send out the e-sign request to have the client sign and initial this form. So I don't have to necessarily jump back into Glide to view these documents. Now that the document has been filled in, I can immediately jump into zip forms, go into the client's transaction, and see the form that has now been filled in appropriately by the seller or sellers. Are there any questions on this? I think the one major thing that I like about Glide is that instead of looking at the entire form feeling overwhelmed by all the questions that they have to answer, what I like about Glide is that it takes each and every section and makes it easily digestible for a person to fill in each section appropriately. And Glide makes them fill in every answer to every question. So under the appliances, I can't just skip over certain sections. I have to literally put something in for each and every section of section A and section B and section C. I can't just skip over it and then expect it to be completed. It will flag and say, you're missing a couple of questions. And then it will take me back to those questions that I have to now answer. But I think this helps us limit the amount of times we have to resend the same form to get them to fill it out and sign it. Or send out the form, decipher chicken scratch, and then send it where it's hard to read everything. Everything is nicely, neatly filled in, typed in. Anybody can read it. Anybody can understand it. Are there any questions on this? Now, what I can also do, if there are no other questions, what I can also do in Glide is also help myself fill out the AVID, okay? So the AVID on the opposite spectrum, for me as an agent, Nellie asks, what's the difference between Glide and Zip Forms platform to email send documents to clients, review, and sign? Well, number one, I can create a Glide account as a real estate agent, and if I do not merge Zip Forms with Glide, then the documents are stuck in Glide, whereby when I send it out for e-signatures, it comes back into Glide. Then I got to download the PDF to upload the PDF in the transaction. That's number one. Number two, if they are merged together, then it's just a matter of personal preference. Are you in Glide at the time to review the documents to send it out, or are you more likely going to be in Zip Forms to review the documents to send it out? So it really depends on where you're reviewing the document at personally. Okay. I like sending out the Glide request from Glide, and then 9 times out of 10, I'm always in Zip Forms when I'm working with other clients, that the moment I get a notification that it's been completed, I go right into the transaction while I'm in Zip Forms and send out the e-signature request there. So I think 9 times out of 10, you're more in Zip Forms to send out the e-signing request than you are going to be in Glide. Does that answer your question, Nellie? You're welcome. Now, when it comes to extra forms, what I can do is do a Avid. So what happens here is when I hit start on the Avid, this is something that the seller doesn't fill in, but this is when I will fill in. Now, if you're not familiar with the Avid, which stands for the Agent Visual Inspection Disclosure, and we'll pull one up here. This is your physical walkthrough inspection, okay? Listing agents as well as buying agents do these forms. Now, for us, we see everything right here, right out of the gate, right? We see all the individual rooms and everything like that. Well, if we're doing this through Glide, okay, and by the way, you notice that not everything's filled in, right? Even though I can fill things in here, but I can do the same thing through Glide. Now, right away, if I hit continue, I'm going to use the Glide's guided Avid workflow. Okay. Now, what this does is it's going to actually take the Avid, and for me, it's going to make it very easily digestible. Okay. So instead of looking at all 2 pages, all the questions all at once, we're now going to take this form and very easily fill it in. So like as an example, is this property a duplex, triplex, or fourplex? No. Now it's going to prepare my Avid, okay, just like so. When I'm doing my inspection, my walkthrough, so I could literally be on my tablet device, walking through the house, in Glide, in an Avid, okay? So what were the weather conditions like? A few clouds, and funny enough, you know what? It was 80 degrees today. Okay. There are no clouds. Not a few, but no. No clouds. Temperature 75.3. Winds at 10 miles an hour. Oh, I see what they meant by 190 degrees. So 10 miles an hour from 190 degrees around the helm. Okay. Okay, great. Boop. Next. Who else was present? Max and Tiffany Davis. Okay. Here, property observations. We're going to add new. And now let's start with the entry. Rain gutters at entry don't seem to drain anywhere. Okay. I could take a photo or I can attach a photo. Next, the dining room. Scratch on wall. Near sliding glass door. Scuff marks at dining entry. Right? Floor has scratches. Okay. Next. So here we can add in our individual rooms, right? When it comes to our bedrooms, bedroom number 1. To note, all we need to do is just fill in what our necessary rooms are, right? All we got to do is just go right down the list. Now, once we hit done, this is optional. Do we have an addendum or an additional room structure? Nope. And now it's going to complete it. Okay. Now, from here, when we hit continue, it's syncing this form with my zip forms. And hopefully in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we're done. Now, I can download this PDF file if I wanted to, right? But let's go back into zip forms. In this transaction that we're just in for Lake Knoll, So we're going back into the documents. There's that avid that we had just added that I didn't fill anything out on, right? But now when I go into it, look at all the information filled in. So everything I just did in Glide, I just now filled in while I was at the property. Anybody like that? And from here, I can now send it out for e-signatures. Or if I'm on my tablet device, log into my Zip Forms account, go in, do my touch sign while I'm there in front of my two clients, Maximilian and Tiffany, and now they can physically sign it. Anybody like that? Are there any questions on this? By the way, that's Glide in a nutshell. So that's really how easy Glide can be. You can send out your seller disclosures, the TDS and the SPQ or the ESD to your client for them to fill in, get it back to you. You can review it and then send it out for signatures. Or we can use Glide to help us as agents fill out the AVID, AVID, as instead of looking at all the boxes all at once and accidentally writing something in the wrong room, we can now take each and every individual room and type in exactly what we need and not hopefully mess up. Nice program, especially now with COVID. Exactly, Frida. I think it's a really good tool getting your clients to fill out those disclosures. The Avid is a little bit more difficult because you're not there necessarily physically to see the home, but that's why we schedule appointments, I guess. But I'm glad that you like it. I think this is a fun tool once you start to use it once or twice. I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised. Are there any other questions on any of this? Any questions at all? Well, if there are no other questions, I want to thank everybody for attending today. All good. Thanks, Sam. Well, if there are no other questions, I want to thank everybody for attending today's webinar on simplifying disclosures using Glide. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact me. My email address is Tony, Tony, at ocrealtors.org, or you can call me at 949-586-6800. My extension is 104. I hope you guys have a great and wonderful day. Thank you all very much. Thanks very much, Frida. Thanks, Joanne. And I'm glad you all enjoyed today. I hope you all have a great and wonderful evening. Have fun. Try this program. Even create a test transaction for yourself and try this out. I think you would really pleasantly enjoy it. And I think just for ease of use, is awesome. If you're working with a TC, give them your Glide account information. That way your TC can send out these requests to your seller or sellers. So just tell them what transaction is for what. They just click on a few buttons, it sends out. Now all of a sudden they've got the most updated contracts with the most updated information. So there you go. Yeah, and it comes right back to you too. So it keeps them kind of out of the loop. So thank you very much, Yolanda. I hope you have a great day too. All right, everybody. Well, I hope you all have a great and wonderful evening, and I will talk to you all very, very soon. And you all will get this recording, if not later today, early tomorrow morning. Okay? All right. Have a great night, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.